Well, this evening, we have one of our own. Larry Yancy is going to demonstrate a multi-phased wood and composite magazine turning using epoxies. This is really the first time I've ever seen it done, and I'm really looking forward to it. But I got to tell you, Larry has promised. You'll notice if you look at some of his stuff, you can see the print through it, and you can actually see words. Playboy magazine is the next one.
It's like the hearing aid commercial. Can you hear me? Okay, good. Well, I'm glad to be here. I'm as nervous as a cat in a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs, but we'll get through this. I guess it was October of 2023, several of us went down to Greensboro, North Carolina, to the North Carolina Woodturning Symposium. They offered quite a few different demonstrations, and one of them that caught my eye was this subject, and it was done by Callie Bosch, Trent Bosch's daughter, and she did a really good job of it, and it caught my interest. I came home and did one bowl, and I had it for show and tell one time, and this is partly the paper. I called it laminated paper. She just called it paper and wood turning, but I like the word because it's not paper anymore. Once you laminate it, it's not paper anymore. So I decided to do that, and I just married it with a piece of walnut, and it's been sitting around for a while. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. But anyway, what I plan to do is just discuss the process just a little bit, show how the paper is laminated. Not going to do a lot of it because it's more boring than watching somebody sand, but it will do enough just to kind of get an idea of how it all works. And then I'll go through some of the materials you'll need, and then we'll actually turn some. So I guess we can go to the... All right, next one. All right, this is the materials that you're going to need. The first thing you're going to need is a source of paper. The next slide. Ron has talked about magazines. Magazines actually don't work that well. You want a paper, there's a term for it in the paper industries, I'm sure, but some papers are much more porous or have fibers in them than others. And so what you want is something that's more porous, like, and books are an excellent example. And I've got some samples of paper here, some that work well and some that don't work so well. So, Chuck, I'm going to pitch this to you. If you pass, there you go, floated to you. But magazines are slick, and so you just don't get the adhesion that you want with magazines. And the more porous the paper, the better. And a good source of paper is books. You like books for a couple of reasons. One is the binder that you use. I've got it here somewhere. The binder holds it in place. You don't have to have a binder, but if you have one, it holds it in place so it doesn't slide around on you all that much. And again, I understand you can use loose leaf paper. I just think that would be longer to do, and it would take, it's more of a mess. This is a mess anyway, but it's more of a mess. The other thing too is if you get these blocks, and you turned out that obviously they'd be blocks. Let me see if I can find my book here. Yeah, this is what, a little bit, we won't do nearly this much tonight, but this, you can see that the binder would help hold all this in place. The other thing that I just learned not too long ago is that I was turning I was gluing the entire book Well, then it dawned on me that, well, I'm not using the entire book. Why am I gluing the entire book? So I just basically cut these in squares. These can be cut round like we have here, or they can be bound together. You could use several of them together to get a larger piece if you wanted to do this. This particular piece here is, well, all of them are bound with another material. The problem I had with this, and when I pass this around, you'll feel how heavy this side is and how light that side is. So it was constantly out of balance. So it was difficult to work with. So, but I'll just pass that around. So let's see, where are we? The other thing too is when you pick your paper, you have basically two outcomes with your paper. One is going to give you a linear outcome, and you would get that with all these lines because they're in the book, they're all going to pretty much line up, and you can see that with that piece. The other is a random outcome, and you get that's more like what this piece is. This was a cookbook. So cookbooks have lots of illustrations. Textbooks have lots of illustrations. So if you use something like that, you're going to get a more random outcome with your wood. Now this is a piece that I turned out, say, out of a cookbook, and then put a cherry crown on it. So, all right. So that's the source of your, the paper. Next thing is you want a source of resin. There's several things you want to look for in your resin. One is you want it to have a long working time. You don't want something that's going to set up on you in 10 minutes or more. This particular resin has about 25 to 30 minutes, depending on the temperature of the room you're working in. The other thing is that it should be epoxy because it doesn't. You don't get a lot of odor with some of the other resins like the. I think the polyurethane resin and one of the others it'll start to smell on you. It's got a pungent odor to it. But lastly, you want it cheap. Which is not. Yeah. Kylie Bosch, one thing that I shook my head at when she was doing it, she was talking about, somebody asked her where she got her books, and she went on to tell where she got them, and somebody asked her, did she go to the thrift store? And she said, no, the thrift stores are too expensive. Well, a Goodwill store, hardback books, $1.99, a paper book's 99 cents. But yet she used total boat epoxy, didn't seem to worry about the cost of the epoxy. So I just think, something doesn't equate there. But this stuff is, I got it at Amazon. It's, I think this says it's $59. I bought some the other day, it was $53, so it's kind of going down in price, but it varies. But anyhow, that's, we'll go from there. I guess the next. That's a 1-to-1, right? What's that? It's a 1-to-1 mix, yes. The other things you're going to need, I can't read that from back here either. Yep. Just a regular old chip brush. It's a cheap chip brush that you can get from Harbor Freight. Just and then I guess you could. I think dollar stores have brushes. I don't know why you couldn't use a foam roller, but I think it'd be kind of expensive after a while to do that. Gloves, nitrile gloves. Because this stuff is messy. It really is. We'll get all over the place. Jelly roll pan. Some people call it a cookie sheet. My wife will use them for a while, and then she decides they're not good enough anymore, and she wants to get rid of them. So I take that. Parchment paper. You want to use parchment paper. Would not recommend using wax paper. Wax paper. Because you'll put this right on your, when you get to the point that you're ready to finish, you've done all you want to do, you put a parchment paper in here to keep this from sticking. Well, when you get ready to go back to the next one, you have to pull that off. And so wax paper, some of the wax could come off with, you pull it off, and it would not adhere to the next one very well. So parchment paper works really well, and it's cheap. Safety glasses, I just dropped them on the floor. To be honest, I never use them, but I should. Because this stuff the viscosity is so low that it's just not going to be flying on you, but it really should be doing it. So I want to make sure that I tell you right. A press of some kind. All I have is just these two pieces of plywood here. I have this one on some stands, so when I put my clamps on there, it'll give me something that holds it up a little bit. And I just put this in here, put it together, and put some clamps, and we'll show that in a few minutes. Measuring cups. Yeah, you just need something to measure this in. This is one-to-one mixture, so you just need to be able to have something. And then something to mix it. Yep, here they are. I'm not going to mix up much tonight because we're going to throw it all away anyway. So it's just, I'm going to just put enough in so we can demonstrate it. And then a cup of something to mix it in.
For a bowl like that, how much of the epoxy are you going to use? Are you going to use, a third of the gallon, or are you going to use a tenth of the gallon, or the whole gallon?
The question is, how much of epoxy are you going to use per bowl? That has a lot to do with the size of the book that you've got. I went to the Goodwill store the other day and bought an NFL book that was probably a little bit larger than this piece of plywood and about that thick. So, but I would say for this, for the random bowl that's being turned around, I would say you'd probably use a fifth of a gallon of this, something like that. So, but fifth to a quarter of a gallon. Some kind of a mixing container, and lastly is a mixing stick. So with that said and done, I think I'm going to prepare. We're going to see if we can't take this and just do it real quickly to show you what we've got. I'm going to get my gloves.
Do you have to, for any given book, do you have to do all of your epoxying at the same time?
No, you can't do it. Yeah, the question is, can you do the entire thing at one time? And the answer is no, because the epoxy is not going to last long enough to do that. Plus, you're going to get so bored, you would want to shoot yourself by the time you got to the point. And that's one of the disadvantages of doing this. It does take a lot of time, but the outcome is worth it, I think. So I put talcum powder in my gloves. It makes it easier to get on and off. But another mess. So, and this is really messy. So you want to, just take something that you won't get everything all damaged. You want to protect. What I do is protect the jelly roll sheet by putting some down. Put this on, and then I'll put another piece on that I'll put the book on. That helps keep it from getting on my press, and then you'll put another piece in between here. One of the things you want to make sure is when you start this, be prepared.
Glove's not doing too good.
What's that?
Turn your hand over. The other one.
Oh, well, okay.
So there, I take it you're not having to put it in a pressure pot?
No, I was going to say, the question was about a pressure pot, and I know you'll notice that's the one thing that's missing here. No pressure pot needed at all for what this is being done. What this is done. I'm glad you asked. Thank you. Where was I? Okay, I'm going to try to mix up some of this epoxy real quickly. Oh, but just have everything ready. So, because if you don't, you mix this all up, and then you get ready to start, then you've got to stop, go get what you've done, and so you allowing your epoxy to cure. I have done mixed up to about 14 ounces, and that will, depending on the size of the book, will probably get you 30 to 40 pages. So, but, so I'm just going to put a little, I'm not going to really measure it all that closely. In fact, I'm not even going to use them. I'm just going to. For the demonstration tonight, I'm just going to take a, come on. All right. The other thing too, you don't have to worry about things like yellowing factors or clarity or that kind of thing. It doesn't really matter because of what we're doing with it. So it's totally different. And I just mixed it according to the instructions.
I suppose if you wanted to, you could tint it.
This one was tinted. Pass that around. Chuck, can you catch this? That was not tinted.
The answer is no.
Plastic bag here somewhere. I'm gonna put all this junk in. I talked to Jared about getting this set up, and I decided I'd bring my little table. We said, well, maybe we could just put a board on the lathe, and I thought, well, I think a lot of people would drop dead if they saw us put epoxy on the lathe. All right. Basically, I just start at the back. Can you see this? And again, this is not mixed very well, but it doesn't matter for what we're going to, I'm throw it away anyway. But you just can imagine how much fun this is. Paint, if you love to paint, it's great. If you don't, not so great. But the other thing too is you're going to want to try to make sure that you don't miss a page. Now, some books, if you missed a page, it probably would be okay because it's porous enough that if you do it on both sides. In fact, I've actually done some books where I did every other page. One worked out, one didn't. So I'm kind of going away from that. But you get the idea. So it goes.
Question, do you have to have 100% coverage? Basically, I mean, saying is, the answer is no.
Well, the question is, do I have to have 100% coverage? I think you would shoot for that. That would be your goal. But it's especially important right here on this edge and the outside edge. Because if you turn it around, that's where you're going to be. On these outside corners, probably not as much. I'm going to do 2 or 3 more pages, and then we'll just skip to the next part. Since my glove's coming apart.
It's probably just gonna, in something like this, it probably won't matter.
What's that?
Talcum powder being in there, it probably won't matter in something like this. Just adds a little more character.
Yeah. Well, you would want to avoid that if you did it at home. See, I said be prepared, and I only came with 1 pair of gloves.
Yeah, those are supposed to be disposable gloves.
Yeah. So after you've gotten to what you want to do, and after you use the epoxy up, you can start to tell when it's starting to set up on you, because this goes on pretty nicely. But once that epoxy starts to set up, you can tell pretty quickly that that it's getting hard to do, and so you want it to come to an end pretty quickly. But after you've gotten where you want to go, I just put my brush there and find my parchment paper and Take another piece. Move my brush out of the way. And put the parchment paper right in there. Close the book up. And then get it ready to press it. I'll throw this away. What do I do with the bag? That's going to fall off.
You can clean the brush with acetone.
Sorry?
You can clean the brushes or whatever you're using with acetone, but
Yeah. But
best of luck if it holds up.
yeah. Well, for what these brushes cost, it's just not, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
The acetone would cost more than the brush.
I'm back to Caleb Bosch again with the
Otherwise known as
cost of the. This will, once you do it, it'll come all out here, so you want to make sure that you try to create a dam here to prevent it, because it squeezes out, and it will make a mess. And we're going to show you that in a minute.
Larry? Would an Encyclopedia Britannica be the kind of paper?
I don't know. Well, an Encyclopedia Britannica would be the kind of paper. Could be. I don't know. It's been, you know,
Very porous.
then that would work fine. Yeah. Some books have really thin paper. My guess is that would work okay, but it would take forever. Yeah. So basically, I just clamp these to get them tight as I can get them, and I can do it in what I call lifts. You know, you can do so much at a lift, and I press it. You can probably take it after about 2.5 to 3 hours. You can probably take it off and do another lift. You can't turn it for several days, but it gets dense enough that you can hold it there for that. The other thing too is, my experience is that the book shrinks a little bit, because when I get ready to take the clamps off, the clamps, I'll clamp them down as hard as I can get them, and then when I get ready to take them off, you can just easily take them off with no problem. So that's the more boring part. Some of the pieces that I've passed around, this particular one, I turned the bowl and then made the crown out of the paper. So, and this is a box that I use on my breakfast room table to put Splenda packages in. And I was unhappy with the fact that the lid didn't fit very well. My wife says, well, why do you want to take 2 hands to get the thing off? So it worked out fine. So, and this again, this one is the linear pattern. That was going to be the only one that's the random pattern is the one that's kind of green. I don't know where that is, but so anyway. All right. So, next slide. Oh, is that the video? The next one's the video?
You ready for the video?
Yeah. So the question is, once you've done this, how do you get from here to there? And so I did a video in my shop because some of the tools that we need to do that are not available. So Jared's going to find that and hopefully play that.
That is the hope.
This is a book that I just finished gluing together, and I'm getting ready to cut it out on the bandsaw, but I wanted you to look at it and see what it looks like before that happens. It's a real mess, but it will clean up nicely. As you can see from this, I've already taken a compass and made my circle on the book, and this is what I will cut. This is probably longer than it should have been. Any questions about the painting or the applying the epoxy? The other tip is make if you're a
This
reader,
is the
you like
disc
to
that's
read,
cut out
make sure
from
you
what
read
we
the
just
book
finished
before
on
you
the
start. 'Cause you-
bandsaw. As you can see, may
you
not
get
be
on the
able to
ground
see
and
it from
read
this
something,
angle, but
you can't
the
stop.
binding side typically ends up being thicker than the turning page side. So I basically just put this on the lathe and can true it up with a bowl gouge.
Is that it? That's it. Okay, well, there's more to it than that, but that's okay.
Larry, you had a question over here.
Larry, could you take two of those books that size and just, do them and then press them together with one pressing of two books?
The question is, can you put these books together, one on top of the other? The answer is yes. You can do that. You can put them side by side. I didn't have an example of that, but when we had the walnut and the laminated blocks, you can glue those together. Now, you want to use the same epoxy that you used because, number one, if you cut it with a bandsaw, there is some irregularity. The epoxy has a tendency to fill those voids, so that works pretty well. But yes, you could stack them up as big as you wanted, and you could get them otherwise as big as you wanted.
I know we're a wood turning club, but do you always add wood?
Do I always add wood?
Yeah.
My next project is going to be a segmented bowl totally out of paper, these laminated paper. Terry?
Yes, is, the epoxy rough on your bandsaw blade, does it dull your bandsaw blade?
The question is, does the epoxy doesn't so much, but the paper does. John, if you ask Jenny for a pair of scissors and she hands you a pair of scissors, she's going to tell you, you're not going to cut any paper, are you? So paper's just naturally, I don't know why it dulls, but yes, it will dull your bandsaw blade. I've turned quite a bit. I mean, I've cut quite a bit with that blade, and it's still cutting fine. So
Are you gonna talk about how you laminated the wood?
as far as laminating it two pieces,
No, to wood. The wood and the kind of glue,
yeah, you basically just clamp it together. It's like you would two pieces of wood.
using the same epoxy.
Yeah, the question is about how you laminate it to wood. You would do it just, once it becomes a block there, it basically is wood. It's used the same way and use the same tools as you would. So you just bring it together and you use the epoxy and put it on generously so it would fill any, if you had any irregularities or something, it would fill all that. Richard?
I was kind of expanding on what he just asked you. Did you need to clamp up and do the book separate and let that solidify before you join it to the wood? Or
Yes.
do it all in one process?
Right, no, you would let the wood, you would let this become a total block, so,
And then dress the edges before it joins
right,
the wood? Okay.
yeah.
Do you run it through a planer then first? Or is this, because the top is gonna be, the top and the bottom is gonna be quite rough.
Shouldn't be. Now, the question was, do I run it through a planer? And the answer is, you could, but I don't know why you would. Just go ahead and take a bowl gouge. Now, I couldn't hear that very well. I don't hear very well anyway, but basically I said that one book, that the binder ended up being, the binder end ends up being thicker than the turning page end. It's not true. What happened was I used some shelving boards for this, and the shelving board on that particular one, the shelving board broke and cracked. So what happened was I was getting more pressure on that one side. So that's what caused that particular one. Then I went to plywood, and I don't have that problem. So, you understand?
For a book that size, how many lifts, how many brushes, how much epoxy, and how many days?
I have hearing aids, and when I get a message, my wife is sending me a message, so I'm having to listen to that. The question is, how much epoxy, how many brushes, how many pages can you do at a time, and how many days?
Let's say the one for that bowl right there.
Which bowl?
The one on the right. The one on the
Oh, this one? Yeah, okay. I would say there are probably 10 layers, 10 lifts on this. It takes about, well, epoxy's only good for 30 minutes, so it couldn't take more than about 30 minutes per one. And then you give it about 2 hours, I would say. And then you can take it out of the press, do another lift, and let that cure, and then you keep doing it. But you have to give them a couple hours so that it penetrates all through the paper and starts to harden to do that. So, I have never tried to doing just individual sheets. I'm sure it would work fine, but I think it'd just be harder to keep in place and not slide around on you. And again, I can't emphasize it's messy, so you just want to make sure that you try to avoid the mess as much as possible. So, all right. This particular one, I put a faceplate on it to get the recess in there, and I used what I thought were fairly good screws, and when I got ready to back them out, screws broke, rung off. So I had to take a drill and drill on both sides of it and all the way around it to try to get those screws out, which doesn't matter because you're gonna cut anyway. So, all right. Now, with this, you can use any kind of tool you like. You can use, traditional tools. You can use carbide tools. You can use scrapers. And I don't see that one's any particularly better than the other. Carbide, is nice because like I say, it does dull your tools after a while, so you don't have to worry about that as much. But I'm just going to turn this a little bit, and then I'm going to let anybody who wants to come up and try it just to see what it does. It turns really nicely. It feels good, and it's nice. I don't have any experience with this lathe, so we're going to just have to see.
Pretty far below center. Tool rest.
Is this a light? Is this a light?
It is a light.
Can we, blocking the view.
Oh, yeah, okay. I'm going to start with the carbide. A little low. Then I'll go to bowl gouge. Spindle gouge. It all works the same. I brought my schmuck, but I forgot to put it on.
I didn't know I needed one.
Larry's getting a big pocket full.
Yeah. And this is just a rich scraper. I'll just give you an idea what how that works. It works fine. So you can use almost any kind of tool. So, if anybody wants to try it, I do have a smock.
After the fact.
Anybody want to just take a whack at it? Okay.
Nobody else, I will.
Okay. You can use mine. You can use this. They'll give me a chance to clean off a little bit.
Larry needs to narrate so that people know what's going on. He doesn't have a microphone.
Oh, okay.
do you put on that when you're done?
I use several different finishes. I lately have used, are those, anybody interested in see what this feels like?
They're passing around.
Oh, okay. I basically have been using the water-based acrylic polyurethane. And one time I used wipe-on poly. That seems to work pretty well, so.
We're at about 850 RPMs.
850 RPM,
Oh, wait, 1250.
1250.
I put the two rest up too high.
It's really pretty coming off. And you can sand it. It sands pretty well. It sands really nicely.
When you put that faceplate on it, how long did it set up and dry before you put the faceplate on?
About 2 days. Hey, the question was, when you put a faceplate on, how long you need to wait before you put the faceplate on? I would say 2 days.
Name tag on the floor.
Yep, behind you, Steve.
There's the tag, where's the magnet?
In your shirt.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, it turns nice. Yeah.
So I have a question, Larry. The piece that's going around that's segmented, that has the little, looks like walnut, or, did you just cut regular segment pieces out of the laminate?
Yes, the question is on the segment, the one that's got the segmented laminated paper. Basically, the idea is took a book and then just ran it through the bandsaw to get the width that I needed, and then put those on the segment sled and cut them to the right dimension. So
Larry, have you ever had any trouble with delamination, not of the paper part, but between the wood and the paper?
no. Mm-mm. Now, let's see. Well, I had the question was about do you have any problem with the delaminating or separating from the wood? I've not had any issue with that at all. The epoxy is tough stuff. I did evidently miss a page at one point, and I turned it with put a worm screw on, and the worm screw bottomed out, and when it did, it put too much pressure where I'd missed that page, and it came apart, and you can see it right there. But I just put epoxy back on it, peeled some of the page back, and put the epoxy back on there, and it's. I didn't want to put it on here tonight because I was I was afraid it might come apart. I'm sorry.
I said, you're using epoxy in your paper, but you're basically making epoxy blank, right?
Epoxy blank, yes.
The paper's really more of a filler, but you can really substitute anything for that, like sawdust or on a wood chip or whatever.
You know, yeah, the question was, could you use wood chips or sawdust or that kind of thing? And I think so, but it's a totally different product. I asked the question when I was in Greensboro, could I take paper from my paper shredder and put some in there? And I tried it because she didn't have an answer for me. So I decided that I would try it, so if anybody asked me, I would have an answer. But the question is, it doesn't work all that well. I put it in a pressure pot, and I still had voids in it, and I just didn't see the purpose of it. It just did not work that well. So, anybody else want to?
Rather than books, could you take just different colored paper and get the same effect?
The question is, can you just, other than books, can you take other sources of paper? Yes, you can, as long as, I wonder about construction paper. You know, you got different colors, but it's going to be a slower process because you have to put it on, then line it all back up, and then do the next one. But I don't see any reason in the world why you couldn't, and I would think the outcome would be really interesting. Do they still make newspapers?
Yellow pages.
They got to print them for the fish market.
Huh?
They got to print them for the fish market.
My guess is newspaper, but you run into the same problem. It's thin, so it would take a lot more time to do it. And I mean, that's the one disadvantage. It's time consuming. It takes a lot of time. Dan?
Question about newspapers is, most newspapers in this area use recycled paper, and so it's not the best quality. So when you're putting on like an epoxy on top of that, you may actually rip it while the epoxy is being spread and saturated into the paper. It's just a cost saving thing that all the newspapers around here have done. Time Dispatch has been doing that for a very, very long time.
Yeah. Dan's comment was that newspapers are often recycled and not the best quality paper, and so you run the risk of ripping it and tearing it when you're spreading the epoxy. So
I wonder if the ink would run on a sheet of paper like that.
I don't know that would matter. The question was, would the ink run? I don't know that would matter.
It would probably run just
Yeah.
because the paper, when it runs through the press, it's saturated with a fine mist of kerosene,
Mhm.
and then it needs a period to dry, but it's cheap paper, cheap ink, and it's soy ink.
Yeah.
Chances are it'll probably run a little bit.
Jim?
If you don't have a book back, what about punching holes and having a jig that you slide the paper down over?
Sure. The question is, could you put jig like a hole punch and put jowls in there? Sure. I don't see that should work fine. Yeah. The other thing I wanted to tell you about selecting books, and I failed to tell you, is that older books will yellow on you a little bit, and that's going to impact your outcome, which is okay. So some of these that I've turned around. But your newer books the paper is whiter and hasn't yellowed. So, and I don't know, once you put the epoxy on, if it would yellow after that or not. I don't know. But one of the places that I go to get books is Goodwill store. I went to the Goodwill store. Bill Talbot standing back there, so I'm going to tell him this. I bought an encyclopedia of motorcycles, and I opened it up and it looked fine. But what I didn't see was the first several pages were, well, actually about the first that many pages were just magazine paper. It was slick. So, Bill, if you want that, I'll give it to you. I meant to bring it, but I failed. I'll bring it next time.
Our local library gives away books.
Mhm.
Yeah, all kinds, just outdated. Some of them are slick, but some of them aren't.
Yeah. Chuck was saying that the library gives away books. So, yeah. Jim?
The small bowl up there with the segmented green on top,
No.
Or how did it get that, to be that color?
You mean this one? That's just the natural color of the book. It was a whiter book, and the lines, that was just the way it turned out. So,
Do they usually turn that color?
no, because this one, let's see, where's some of the others? See, this one is a little bit more yellow, and this one is, the top here is more yellow, so. But again, it's going to depend on the question is about, did I do something to color this? And I did not. It's just the color of the book. It just depends on the luck of the draw. So, the other thing with books, I think there's only 3 rooms in my house that don't have bookshelves on them. And I'm constantly telling my wife, we need to get rid of all these books. Don't you touch them. So,
Have you considered using tint in your epoxy?
yes,
Bit of color?
there's a block going around. I don't know where it is, but I used a tint. I think it wasn't great as far as I'm concerned. It didn't, it turned it, you could tell that it got a tint in it, and it could have been if I had put more tint in it, that it would have been better. I don't know. But, and the question was something about tint. Can I tint it? Yes. I don't know where that block, there's one that looks blue. Oh, there it is, yeah. Hand it to Chuck there. See. Now, maybe if I had put more tint in it, that it would have done better. I don't know. But it looked pretty blue when I put the epoxy in there. So. Turn around, Chuck. That's the backside. Okay.
Yeah, the edge is very blue, but that's where it's a thicker amount of.
Yeah, yeah.
In front of you, Chuck. In front of you. Bring it here. Move it to where the camera is.
Just look at the camera. I mean, look at the screen. Yeah.
The other thing I failed to mention too is that books have margins, and that's going to impact your outcome. So if you
That's why you got that white stripe on that. That's the mark.
yes, that's the margin of the book. So if you don't want that, then you need to maybe cut the margins away a little bit. See, this one has a margin. I'm not sure where the other one is. Yeah. See, this one, you could tell it had the margin here a little bit. Can you see that? So,
Hold it still and I'll find
Right here, all right.
it. Just hold it still and I'll find it. Now focus on the lid. There we go.
I think it's fun to do. I have to tell you, I do not enjoy the gluing up process, but the rest of it is really fun. Neil?
I'm just curious, if you just took a book and threw it in the pressure pot and covered it with epoxy, how would that turn out different? Would the pressure pot push the epoxy in?
I doubt it.
Can you repeat the question?
The question is, if I put a book with epoxy in a pressure pot, would it penetrate into the book? I can't answer that with a lot of authority. I have not tried it, but I have my doubts. Bill?
What about a vacuum chamber?
The question was, what about a vacuum chamber? I don't have any experience with that. So it might work.
Have you done any with sheet music or hymnals or anything?
No, I have not tried that. But again, just feel the paper. It's just tactical. It's a tactical kind of thing. Just put it in your fingers and feel it and see if it. The question was, have I tried sheet music? Just if it feels slick, you don't want to try to use it. But if it has some resistance when you pull your fingers across it, because it's got all that fiber, then yeah, it should be fine, no matter what. So, Cody, you have a question?
Yeah, have you tried cloth?
No, I have not, and I've thought about it. The question is, have I tried cloth? My guess it would work fine.
I did a thin blade denim, but I didn't press it. It was still turnable.
Yeah. I think the pressing is what's really is important. I think that's so.
Do you think any other kind of a finish would work, like a catalyzed varnish or something? Or would it never dry if you had it stacked together and pushed it? I'm just thinking of something that might be simpler to do than the epoxy.
Well, I asked the question about wood glue, and I tried wood glue. I think wood glue would work, but wood glue sets up really quickly. And so, now I know some of it probably is longer, it takes a little bit longer. That might work, but
That's probably just as expensive as the epoxy.
but I think the wood glue probably would work, but it's just, it sets up so quickly.
Yeah, what I'm not sure about wood glue is, once you put it together, if it's gonna dry. Because what's in the bottle, it doesn't harden, so
Well, when I tried it, it worked.
okay.
I-
How much, okay.
Yeah, I tried, and it, I only did 70 pages because I just wanted to do it so that if anybody asked me, I'd be able to tell them, so. But the question is, would wood glue, was that the question? Or would something else besides the epoxy work? And we talked about wood glue.
The bowl that I did with the cardboard was just regular type bond.
Uh-huh.
That's the paper.
Yeah, I was curious about that, because was it just regular box type cardboard?
Keurig and Amazon Prime.
Okay. The question,
Top quality.
yeah. His comment was that he just used Tite Bond with the cardboard, and that's great. It looks great, but I just don't know how you get the paper in the, in the corrugated area. So, it's evidently worked, so I can't argue with that.
I didn't put any glue inside. I just glued the surfaces together and then turned it.
But did you press it at all?
Just a little bit when I first started, but that's why you could look into it.
Okay. Was talking about cardboard. What?
Probably not as strong. You could probably break the thing.
Well, I might, yeah, it probably wouldn't be as strong. So, because this, basically this is just like wood. It's I'm going to take it off and pass it around so you can kind of feel it. It's heavy. That's another thing. It's really heavy. It'd probably make a good mallet.
All right, you got other questions, or we're gonna?
Yep. Any more questions?
Good job.
That's it. I want to see some projects come in the next couple of months. Oh, there was one more slide. You got my contact information here. If you have a question, please contact me. I'm anxious to talk about it and see just to see what happens.
Epoxy here, or did you order it online?
No, this came from Amazon.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like, this is a gallon, and it was, the last I bought was $53. When I did this slide, it was 58 or 59, but it's come down a little bit since. So, and it's relatively cheap. But it's tabletop epoxy, so but the thing you're going to want to look for is the working time, and you want as long as working time as you can possibly get. And 14 ounces is, you can probably, if you work pretty steadily and your room is relatively normal temperature in the, high 60s, low 70s, you could probably make 14 ounces. You can get through 14 ounces before it's totally destroyed or sets up.
Thank you.
All right.
I'm sitting back here